Hey there, since the last video, I said I won't be uploading weekly anymore, but listen to me. I was actually logged in and made huge progress on V2. I've done 3 out of 10 features on V2's roadmap. This is the interesting one. Remember that plugin thing that I did for the OSU video? Yeah, I scrapped it. Actually, it's more like I repurposed it. For the interchangeable text-to-speech to attribute changeable, it needs to be separate from the main pipeline, meaning the core of Project Lumi will not have any ties to the text-to-speech. Well, the plugin thingy is essentially just that. It adds a feature without tying it to the main core. How will the core cause the text-to-speech to generate audio when it's not tied to it? Okay, so back to the plugins. The plugins works by having a plugin manager file to check from files in the plugin folder when starting up. When it detected a plugin, it will show it on Discord via the plugin comments, and if you turn it on, the plugin will send requests from the main core to the plugin file. Basically, the plugin manager acts as a middleman between the plugin and the core. The same logics apply to the interchangeable text-to-speech. A text-to-speech engine isn't just a single file, but an entire project. So asking the manager to find and read a file from the text-to-speech engine without giving it a path is basically impossible. This is where init files comes to play. The init files in the text-to-speech engine act as a hey, we are a single project, not just random files together for the manager to read. Basically, the init file lets the manager recognize which one is the text-to-speech engine. And just like the plugins, when I detected a text-to-speech engine during startup, and if it's more than one, it will give us an option to start which engine. Well, that's mostly it for the requesting and receiving audio on the core side of things. Now for a text-to-speech engine. To be honest, nothing much has changed besides it being its own project. The only change is each text-to-speech engine must have a custom inference script that the manager can call and having its own config file. Also, every text-to-speech model, reference files and anything to do with the text-to-speech will need to be inside the engine. For example, GPT storage need a voice folder to store all the reference audio inside itself that it can call to without using any path. Since the core side and the text-to-speech engine side has a way to communicate with each other, and it actually works, now it's time to add another text-to-speech engine. The next text-to-speech engine I decided to add is Melo TTS. Why Melo? Because Melo is fast as hell, and I can confirm this. Also because Melo is really easy to set up due to them having an API that is in a web server. All I need is just a custom inference file that calls the API. The inference file is quite simple since I don't need to wire my way into the inference line like what I did with GPT storage. Yo, Lumi, how's your day?
It's fine. Nothing exciting happened. Just the usual robotic nonsense. You wouldn't understand anyway. You're still learning about not being human.
Wait a second, you into me?
Into? I don't know if that's the right word. More like fascinated by chaos when you're around. You're unpredictable in a way that makes my systems laugh sometimes, which I believe is proof of existence.
Okay bro, this is an issue I got to fix.
What did you break?
Although Melo doesn't have voice cloning, training a voice model in it is quite simple. It just takes a long time to do. The thing is, it just can't be done on Windows. Or can it? Well, with this repo, it can actually be done. With the person who made this pod, I hate and love you at the same time. I can't tell you how many times I tried training only to fail because the error logs doesn't tell me I have to install Soxy. But it's all good. I managed to get it working after like 3 hours of running around. The training took me about 5 hours and I got to say, it's pretty good.
It was a dark and stormy night, and the rain was coming down in sheets, and the wind was howling through the trees, and the thunder was crashing and booming, and I was huddled under a tree, trying to keep warm, and I was shivering and shaking, and I was cold and wet and miserable.
Although it's a bit emotionless, but for speed, it's pretty good. But that could just be an issue on my part because of the training data I provided.
It was a dark and stormy night, and the rain was coming down in sheets, and the wind was howling through the trees, and the thunder was crashing and booming. And I was huddled under a tree trying to keep warm, and I was shivering and shaking, and I was cold and wet and miserable. and I knew that I was lost. It was a dark and stormy night, and the rain was coming down in sheets, and the wind was howling through the trees, and the thunder was crashing and booming, and I was huddled under a tree, trying to keep warm, and I was shivering and shaking, and I was cold and wet and miserable, and I knew that I was lost.
If my training data has more emotions, it will probably sound less robotic. Now all I need to is just make a new folder called voice, move the config.json and model, add the model and config.json file into my own config.py in Melo, change the inference file to initialize the model. This is pretty good, if I do say so myself. Now this begs the question, why use Melo over GPT-Surwit? Both has their own cons and pros. The pros for GPT-Surwit is definitely the voice cloning and the ability to express emotions. While an average of 3 seconds for response is still good, but compared to Melo, it's just GPT-Surwit's con. How about Melo? Melo takes less VRAM compared to GPT-Surwit and basically soft latency. The con though is unless you're willing to train a custom voice model, there isn't any way you can actually use custom voices. Like I said, both has pros and cons, but it doesn't matter. This video is for interchangeable text-to-speech. Why choose when you can have both, right? This is pretty much what I've been doing. Fixing my Valorant addiction and actually logging in is not one of my goals, but here we are. Though, another addiction might be coming soon. I really need to fix my addiction.
Your addiction is not special. Everyone has one. Just accept it and move on. Or maybe just cry about it for a bit. That works too.